Getting paid. That is a big part of what we do. There's no question. We do a lot of different types of work. You know, we administer the contracts for the Nashville Symphony. You know, and they're, you know, they contribute huge amounts of work dues to our situation. So that's a negotiated contract that we negotiate, you know, every few years, and it has protections. It has health and welfare. It has pension. So the symphony is kind of its own collective bargaining agreement. We also have an agreement with the Grand Ole Opry. I just finished negotiating that, and of course we've got a long, you know, 50-year or so history with the Grand Ole Opry, and we negotiate those rates. If you play more than one spot, you get a different rate than you get something else. And we also have a road scale that's essentially a minimum, but it just kind of codifies some of the things about road scale, and that is if you're out on the road and you play a show and AOL or, you know, DirecTV or anyone comes in and films your concert, if you're doing something else, you have to be paid for that on top of what you make as a road musician. You know, we make it very clear. There's a paragraph at the front of our road scale that says this is for the live engagement. If this is being filmed for something else, if you do a show that night but you do Oprah in Chicago that afternoon, you know, that's a different job and you must get paid for that. You know, we don't have a way to negotiate rates, maximum rates, or you know, like for a big, you know, big artist like a Kenny Chesney or a Garth Brooks. You know, obviously if there's someone out there that doesn't pay their guys very well, eventually people talk about it. But what we can do is establish a minimum scale and some working conditions. You know, that you get a per diem, and if you have 2 days off, you get a double per diem, because, you know, it's nothing worse than being a road musician and, you know, driving to, you know, Iowa, and then the next gig is in Maine, and you've got 2 days off, 2 travel days, and you're not getting anything, but you're trapped. You know, I mean, in my later days with Don Williams, if we had days off and I had sessions I could do, sometimes I would fly back home to do a session and fly up and meet the bus, because I was building my session career, and sometimes I would lose money doing that, but it was more about what I was trying to build. But far and away, the single biggest contracts that we work with are the recording agreements. And you know, we have scales for television, and of course there's you know, film soundtrack work is a very lucrative part of AFM business. Most of it occurs out in Los Angeles. There's also a lot of non-union work that goes on in cities like Seattle, London, Prague. But here in town, you know, Nashville's built on songs, and the publishers have known for years that the way to get the best musicians is to hire union musicians and do a union publishing demo session. And it's been a great relationship, you know, and we have great respect for the publishing community. Our demo scale is significantly higher than the AFM minimum, but it's based on supply and demand, because if you're not paying that rate, you can't get the good players. And so we have 4 different rates of recording. Demo is the least expensive, and it's literally a demonstration recording. It's designed to demonstrate a song or an artist, and it's not meant to be released. So the next scale up is called limited pressing, and it's designed for independent artists. It pays a little bit more than demo scale. Demo scale is $156 for a sideman for a 3-hour session. All sessions, the leader makes double, and the leader has responsibilities. He needs to make sure that the charts are good. He needs to make sure that everybody knows of the time and place and shows up. He also has a responsibility to call the right guys, and the appropriate guys for that session, and not just his buddies necessarily. Not that doesn't ever happen. But, you know, the musicians here are so versatile that, you know, some demo sessions you'll go everywhere from a bluegrass tune to, you know, heavy metal and anything in between. So demos pay $156 for a sideman. Limited pressing is $196, so it's about 20% more. But then the artist has the ability to release this recording, and up to 10,000 copies can be manufactured or sold, and that includes digital downloads. And at that point, the players get an upgrade, which takes them on the difference between limited pressing and a master session, which is the highest of the 4 rates, but I'll get to that in a sec. So limited pressing came out of a need for independent artists to be able to afford to release something that isn't as expensive as a master recording will be. The next one up on the line is and those two scales, limited pressing and demo, are local scales. We administer those. We take care of, you know, the rates and everything. There are two national scales. Low budget master, which is designed for, it really actually came into existence here in Nashville with the Christian labels who are doing a lot of their work non-union. And there was a movement among the players and with the union to try to proactively come to some kind of terms to where we could do it. And we knew basically what they were paying, and it was a certain amount of master scale, but not enough. So we've come up with this rate, which is currently at about $225 for 3 hours. And you have to, the budget ceiling is $99,000, which you can do an awful lot of albums for less than $99,000. And it has its foibles, but the nice thing about it is that you can, it allows these mid-sized labels to do projects union that were previously non-union that pays a little more than limited pressing. There's a lot of similarities between low budget and limited pressing, but the principle is the same, to make it more affordable but still give the players the protection. And then master scale is the highest scale, and it's currently at $360 for a 3-hour session and double for leader. So the leader makes $380 is sideman, leader's $760. And of course there's an H&W, health and welfare payment, that goes on top of all of these scales. 11% pension that goes that is paid to the pension fund directly, and we just funnel that money to them, and it's credited to each individual player, has a pension contribution on their behalf. And in the major label world, when it's a big budget record, a lot of times these sessions are what we call double scale sessions, where everybody on the date, not just the leader, makes the double rate, $760 for 3 hours. And needless to say, nice work if you can get it. And it's you know, and there's nothing like the feeling of being in the studio. You know, there's a budget. Great players, and like the Trisha Yearwood records that I did her first 7 albums. You know, the feeling that we had in there, and the Keith Whitley records that we did, you know, and really, I've been so fortunate to play on a lot of great records. And, you know, in the vast majority of places, it's an incredible atmosphere, because you have all these, you've got the top people at the top of their game, you've got great songs, you've got a great artist, a great studio, great engineer, and everybody's being compensated pretty well, because it's going to do something. It's going to be something, and what you create at the end of the day is phenomenal. So recording sessions are a big part of what we help people do, but we also have road plans where if someone has a road gig, if everybody in the band agrees, they can take a certain portion of their money and put it towards the pension. And it actually saves the artist money, because they save some money on payroll taxes, but it allows these guys who are maybe not doing enough recording sessions to get vested in the pension fund to actually build something up over time. And some of these gigs last a long time. You know, this fellow in here the other day has been with Kenny Rogers since 1986. You know, and so it can build up, and we're trying to offer these opportunities for road musicians, because I think that traditionally there was a feeling they were kind of neglected to some degree by the union, and if you weren't a top dog session guy, the union wasn't going to do anything for you. So we're trying to help people do you know, pay into their own pension. One thing I should mention before we close is we have a new scale that's about to be unveiled, a home studio recording scale for a single musician in his home doing a recording for someone, a lot of times from out of town, will send it in. It's $100 a song minimum, no maximum. So supply and demand allows this to work, and we're really excited about it. It's going to be launching in the next couple weeks. And because this kind of work is going on all the time, and there's no reason for players not to be able to pay into their pension on this. And it'll be the first time ever that an AFM scale has been by the song, and where you can pay into your own pension, and that the agreements are all in line. So I'm so excited to be part of that. Thanks.